This slide outlines a typical process of conducting a research. It basically consists of three main phases, which include deciding what to research, planning a research study, conducting a research study. In deciding what to research, it involves formulating a research problem. This can be done by having an extensive review of the literature in the field that you intend to study. Based on the understanding acquired from the review, particularly the current state of the situations, you may formulate a research problem. The research problem needs to be specific, valid, and significant. On top of that, the research problem needs to be able been resolved after you have conducting the research. Once you have identified the research problem, you will need to look deeper into the problem. With the help of the literature, you may identify the variables affecting the problems. This helps you to understand more the problem and give you some insights and directions in acquiring the solutions for the problem. After that, you may start constructing the hypothesis for the research problem. The hypothesis is a scientific guess, which is normally founded on the established principles and theories, or the least it should be conceptually valid. The hypothesis will be the focus of the study, which ultimately you will need to test the hypothesis whether it is true. This phase is very important as it sets the directions of a research. Next, you will proceed with planning a research study. It started with conceptualizing a research design. Based on the research problem that you have identified, knowing the nature and the purpose of conducting the research, you will need to design a research program for the study. The research design needs to be rigorous, systematic, and without redundancy. A good research design will have minimum effort in order to maximize the output. While designing for the research, you will need to consider various aspects to avoid any lackings in the process of answering a research problem. Then you will need to select a suitable study design for your research. Next, you will need to construct an instrument for data collections. Having the research design identified, you will need to identify what kind of data that you intend to collect in order to reflect the topics that you intend to study. Then you will have to select suitable methods to collect the data. Next, you will need to establish the validity and reliability of the research instrument. As by fundamental, the data to be collected needs to closely resemble the situations that you are studying. Careful selections of data to be collected is essential. And then you will need to use the right research instrument for you to collect the data. The reliability and the accuracy of the research instrument will directly affect the quality of the data. Therefore, it is important to establish the validity and the reliability of the research instrument. Depending on the type of the research, the instrument can be physical instrument, such as some apparatus and the test equipment, or non-physical instrument, such as tools that you use to do the survey study. Both the validity and the reliability of the instruments needs to be ensured. For the physical instrument, you will have to make sure that the equipments are properly calibrated, and usually before you are using the instrument, you will need to ensure it is functioning well. As for the non-physical instrument tools, there are techniques for use to test the validity and reliability of the research instruments. Next, you will need to select the sample for the research study, as these samples will be used to represent the things that you would like to study. The samples needs to be carefully selected, and you will need to determine an appropriate size of the sample so that it is more closely represent the cases that you intend to study. Next will be writing a research proposal. This is also an important stage of the research study, as it helps you to organize and outline the entire research that you intend to conduct, organizing your talks during the planning, and giving you a guide while conducting the research study. By the stage of writing the research proposal, you should have all the previous steps to be established, where you need to clearly state the research problem, provide some theoretical background onto the topic, outlining the research design, listing the data and the methods to collect the data, provide details of the samples that you would like to study. Preferably, you need to have everything worked out before you start conducting a research study. Next, during you conducting a research study, you will start collecting the data. Get all the necessary research tools established, collect the data carefully, and take note about the ethical issues in collecting the data. You should not falsify the data and try not to manipulate the data. The ethical issues can be a very big issue in the field of research. Therefore, you need to be careful while you're collecting the data. After collecting the data, you will proceed with processing and displaying the data. This involves a series of analysis of the data. Based on the analyzed result, you will interpret the result and try to correlate to the research conditions, knowing the meanings of the data and the results. And then the next thing, it will be displaying the data. The data needs to be displayed in meaningful manner and easily comprehensible manner. You may use the tables and figures to represent the data, and normally those data will have to be discussed in order to acquire findings for the research that you have conducted. Then you will need to write the research report. There will be a series of standard outline of the research report, and the report needs to be written in the concise manner, providing all the necessary details and specifications, presenting the data, having the discussions of the data and the results, and drawing the conclusions whether the research problem has been catered off. By this stage, all the previous process should have already been recorded. And this research report is important as it is meant to document the research process as well as the research finding for the reference of the future researchers. This research report will eventually become the literature for some other reports when they would like to start another new research. So this research process serves a research cycle Completing a research will add up to new literature for the next research that studying the similar field. This is how the research contributes to the knowledge and how the knowledge that have been found previously can contribute to the future research.